Well, hello everybody. This is Reanimated. Yep, your ears are not deceiving you. It's us. We're back. We've taken our regular summer break. This one was a little extended due to travel, work. I don't know. Have you had COVID yet, H.A. Conrad? H.A. Conrad, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. Um, I have not. Have you?
There's been a ton of it. I don't know. I'm steadfastly refusing to test if I do get sick because I've been sick nonstop since April. Um, but no
Can you
fevers.
can you still smell things?
There was a while when I could not smell or taste in the early spring.
Then that could
Um,
probably be it, you know.
I don't know, like the body's a wild place. Either way, it's just been a lot of close contact notifications at the old office. Um, but to my mind, we got to just get on with it. We got to get on with life.
All
Is that
right.
is that uh is that blasphemy to your ears?
Not really. I mean, as long as there's not any kind of weird strain or anything.
No, there's always a weird strain.
Well,
What's this one
weird.
called? The
I-
Fidelity? No, like well, those a new one with a funny name that starts with an F.
there is. I don't know. No, I mean, look, this is at the point where I think for the most part, it's not hopefully. There's nothing, it's a little bit more like normal coronaviruses, i.e. colds or whatever. So hopefully that's where we are.
Yeah. I'm still hearing it from people who are getting it for the first time.
Really
Yeah. Just
weird.
like, oh, the nights of summer. Been
Yeah.
rewatching Game of Thrones too. You know what? I was listening to The Watch, The Ringer, The Watch, Ringer Podcast Network, The Watch. Either way, they were talking about House of the Dragons, which is having a really good season. I don't know if you've been seeing it at all, H.A. Conrad.
So, I watched the first couple of episodes. Bill is not into it, so I think I have to watch it separately. So I haven't actually watched anything beyond the first, I think, two or three episodes from the first season.
First season. Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
I think it's a solid show, and this season has been a good season too.
all
But
right.
my point is that's a solid spin-off. The fact that it's being well received critically and by fans suggests to these guys on the watch that they'll probably be working on more spin-offs for this
Oh,
universe.
I think
And if they
absolutely.
do, I'm wondering what the odds are that they could do one on White Walkers, like one that's more focused on undead. And I don't know because it felt like they really lost interest in that storyline in the Prime series, but maybe there's a chance.
Maybe we'll see on that front. Speaking of remakes or reimaginings or whatever, you have you seen the new Time Bandits at
No,
all?
not yet, not yet. I'm thinking I might watch it with the kids because it's getting
It is. It
suggested
is.
to me for as a kid show. The original I thought was too dark.
It this is a kid show. It does have some good darkness, though I don't think as much darkness as the original film. It's pretty cleverly written. I think the kids would like it probably.
Yeah, yeah,
But there is a couple of bits in it that I'm like, oh, that's still kind of scary. Like if you're thinking of it from like a kid point of view. But the kid that plays the main role is awesome.
yeah.
So
Well,
and
that there's
Lisa,
a lot of weight on their shoulders. They it's kind of got to carry the whole
yep, and
ensemble in a way.
he's pretty awesome.
Who
And
is
then
the lead actor? The lady
Lisa Kudrow is in it.
Lisa Kudrow. I knew they had somebody like
And
impressive.
she's very good, and obviously Jermaine Clement is in it and has a lot of stuff to do with it. And our favorite the oh gosh, why can I? It's with the T
Taika
Marvel.
Waititi.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Um,
I
he
mean,
is in it.
Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi kind of go hand in hand in a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. So
contexts.
that partnership is very strong. He's doing a great job. They both do, and they seem to be getting a lot of joy out of it. So I think you would have a good time. The kids would enjoy it too.
Well,
So,
adding it to the list as well as getting into our zombie news a little bit here. I'm going to our second item because the second season of the Daryl Dixon show, Book of Carol,
mhm.
is supposed to air next month in like a month and 3 weeks, basically,
Yep.
September 24th, which feels like a long way to go without this does feel like a desert for Walking Dead content in a while, is because it's been years since we've had so little Walking Dead.
But I mean, the interview he gave, maybe that's like a, I don't know, maybe that's like maybe that's a red herring or something, but he basically says he wants to play Daryl Dixon for another like 6 or 7 years or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I
So
wonder if he's just like really milking it or if he really likes the character that much that he's willing to
oh,
do
I
it
think
for
he I think he definitely likes the
it'll be
character.
20 years, like from
Yeah.
2010 to 2030 is what he's suggesting.
Yeah.
That's like soap opera levels of playing the same character, right?
Yeah, but hey, if he enjoys it, cool. So I'm excited to see the debut, and I have a feeling this will like go by in a heartbeat. So we'll be looking forward to watching that pretty soon. And you also there was like a We Are Zombies trailer that came out as part of the film festival. Like it was a Canadian film festival.
I believe it's a Canadian film. So yeah, We Are Zombies. It looks funny from the trailer, and you know the trailers are never lie. And this is going to be on Screenbox later this month, so we could watch We Are Zombies coming soon. And like I said, trailer looks pretty funny. It's on YouTube. Check it out. We Are Zombies.
All right. And
And then
then last but
finally, yeah, this feels like old news, but was rewritten into an article just a week ago. But this is
yeah, I
from
wonder
an
why.
interview in 2012 that Nathan Fillion did with Conan O'Brien.
This was kind of odd. I don't know why this came up again. Maybe there was something going on with Nathan Fillion. I don't know, but basically he's talking about how he thinks about zombie survivalism and things like that, and that was kind of funny.
And how he has decided to learn welding as a skill that he thinks would be useful in a zombie apocalypse.
Right,
Now, this does feel much more like the sort of interview that he would give 12 years ago when
right.
zombies were kind of at their zenith in culture because of Walking Dead being probably in its third season at that point. Um, yeah, weird that it was rewritten into an article by a giant freaking robot this
Uh,
week.
that's kind of interesting. I don't know. Um, it makes me think maybe there's something new brewing, maybe, or it's just slow news week, which is also possible.
Yeah. I
Totally.
think you put Nathan Fillion into an SEO search engine sort of deal and you'll get clicks.
I mean, he was in Santa Clarita Diet briefly as the head thing,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but anyway, maybe we'll see something else going on with him.
And
But
I was just reading also before we hit record, Blackpink, member of Blackpink, Jisoo, is set to star in a new Korean zombie series called Newtopia. There's not a lot of information out there about it yet, but always a fan of what South Korea can do with zombie stuff. Still waiting for All of Us Are Dead, Kingdom season 3, all of these things.
I think we're going to be waiting for a little while,
Yeah,
definitely.
at least
Uh,
All of Us Are Dead. We got confirmations that it was in production because Kingdom season 3 never got renewed. Um, so we're going to be waiting a long time for that. But
and then one thing that I keep getting ads for, which I don't know if you've been seeing, but like the Snowpiercer television series, which I've not watched the series. So like apparently there's like 4 seasons now.
okay, but
And
that's not a zombie thing.
it's not really a zombie thing, but it's more of like an apocalypse thing.
No, it's for sure
Yeah.
dystopian apocalypse. Yeah.
Right. So it was weird because I guess it basically got scrapped by TNT, but now it has a last season through AMC somehow. So
Oh,
that's kind of an interesting thing. But I keep getting like so many trailers for it, so I thought I should raise it. So,
okay. Yeah, I've been seeing it on. It's probably been on Amazon Prime, where it's
and
getting.
that may be why, because we've been watching, Interview, but I
Yeah.
keep even getting it like interjected into other stuff, which I'm like, okay, I guess somebody really wants me to watch Snowpiercer. But anyway. maybe we should check it out at some point if we are light on zombie content.
I mean, we did Silo. I feel like it's a slippery slope once we just say, "Oh, we're
Uh,
about dystopia now. We're not about
I don't
undead."
know. True.
Silo, though, both of us
That was
feel
so
so.
good.
We,
That was so good. Come
yeah.
on. I'm not I'm
I don't
not
know
I'm
since
not apologizing for that.
if you've been reading AV film, or the is it AV film? The God,
Yeah.
why can't I remember? Yeah, they've been writing a bunch of articles, and I've been seeing a bunch of headlines. It was earlier in the summer when this show was still coming out every week, Interview with a Vampire, but they kept writing headlines that were like, "This is the best show that nobody's watching right now," and they're talking about Interview with a Vampire. So I was really happy to see that, but it
I
also is a little bit like, uh-oh, um, please don't cancel it, or
agree.
let's keep going with this Anne Rice world because there are such good stories to tell from it.
Yeah, and it is again, I can't get over it is a really beautifully made show, and I do think the editing, and we're gonna get into this episode, and the storytelling was was even we had a couple of episodes where it definitely was a little slower, and I think you and I were complaining a little bit about it, or maybe I was complaining more than you.
Yeah,
But
we both. I mean, I went back and listened because it's been so long since we've recorded that I wanted to remember what we were saying, and I think for 3 episodes in a row we said it's a little slow,
yep.
but
But
we like it
that has
anyway. Yeah.
that has changed drastically, I think, with the episode we're about to talk about. So,
With episode 5, don't be afraid, just start the tape.
um,
I think this one is it definitely has like a through line of action and revelation.
yes, and I think that the way they reveal it is pretty clever and well done. And I do think sort of the build up in terms of Louis being the unreliable narrator and also Armand's sort of hidden narration, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, these things are I think this is and also Daniel Malloy's sort of his own like missing pieces and things like that. I think this all comes together pretty beautifully in this episode. So,
Yeah, I think it's worth giving a shout out to the guy playing Molloy again, whose name, gosh, what's his name? Eric Bogosian.
yeah,
He,
he does a great
he
job.
I mean, I've already complained that he's like too irascible, too antagonistic early on in their interview series.
He brings it back here. He does. He does.
He does still touch back on that, but you can see this like this vulnerability in him now where he's scared. And he's like he's not certain. He's lost some of that sure footing that he had in the other episodes. And I just think it's pretty deft. I like seeing that in his performance as much as he's still sticking to the I'm an old dying man, I don't give a crap and I'm gonna speak truth to power. He's not quite doing that as much as he was as
Well,
he's
he's doing that, but he is showing some cracks in that
yeah.
little shield, and there's a lot of I think deference or he's showing a bit of the damage that his life has like the damaged way he's been living his life and some of these things how it's impacted it and ties it all back into this specific time period, which is really kind of cool. And I also think that the mystery of it is really interesting too. And so anyway,
I
that
agree.
that's a lead in to this episode, which I guess we're now talking about. So
Here we are.
there
And
we
this
go.
one, we get to explore the 1970s in San Francisco is the majority of it because um, Daniel and Louis are kind of left alone by their otherwise ever-present shadow Armand during this
Hmm.
episode. It's kind of interesting setup for this. They start off kind of where it's been a lot in these previous episodes with Armand and Louis being all lovey-dovey with each other at the table while Daniel's kind of like, oh God, Malloy is like,
Not again.
enough of this BS. But then Armand, and then there's like a very strange interaction where this like thug dude is brought in by Rashid
Hmm.
and talking a lot of smack and saying, "You're the one who's supposed to chase me down. It's never gonna happen. You better buy a race car, buy a Bugatti and crash into the rails." I wasn't 100% following what he was getting at, but it's also just
Okay.
laughable that this guy has so much bravado in the face of what is about to happen to him. What did you think of how that all went?
Oh yeah, and I thought that was, deliberate and a show of power by Armand, but also Malloy's just kind of sitting there like, oh, is the show over yet? And but this also leads into the really interesting stuff in this episode, which is while Armand is out there chasing down this arms dealer, they are now exploring, and Daniel is able to um reveal a little bit of the stuff that he now has, which is his original interview, and he's trying to bring back the memories of himself, but also Louis, and hold Louis honestly a little bit holding him accountable for some of this stuff and holding him accountable for um he knows that there's some big thing missing here. And to some extent, this makes them partners in crime a little bit. And I don't want to say in crime, but like they are doing this without Armand present for a reason.
Because
Uh,
Armand, they know, would derail the conversation
right.
or put a stop to it. But yeah, like it's and Louis, like Malloy has to persuade Louis to go ahead with it. Because at first Louis like, I don't want to. What are you doing? You're like derailing our conversation. And Malloy, after like pulling these files out of his secret computer, I don't know how this part of the story is working. He has they because they refer to his encrypted computer in one of these.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know either.
and they can read minds. I just feel like there's no way he could keep secrets, but
No.
he's somehow, maybe he is, maybe he's not. Maybe Armand knows everything that's going on already.
Yep.
But he manages to persuade Louis through kind of a by being vulnerable, by saying like, "Look, I've given you 13 sessions of this interview, and all I'm asking for is please tell me what happened to me in 1973 in San Francisco." And Louis finally relents, and they start to talk about it um a little bit more. And as the episode unfolds, they kind of come up with some revelations.
Hmm.
So what stuck out to you about this? First of all, the actor playing young Malloy. How do you like this guy?
Oh, he does a pretty good job at being a young Malloy. I think the recklessness and look, some of these things are still present in him today. And the interesting thing is that he he's been kind of going along with this assumption that somehow he and Louis had like knocked boots or done something like that. And so this was like actually one of the funnier parts of this episode where he basically is like, "Tell me, did we, get it on basically?" And Louis just kind of laughs.
Well,
And
they also we get to see the flashback of Malloy throwing himself at
yeah,
Louis
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. And so it's like it's even almost even funnier because Malloy had some idea that maybe Louis had um I don't know, like mesmerized him, and that's definitely not what happened. And they do have this very interesting interaction, and basically Louis like, "Oh, that's just kind of boring," and wants something else out of Malloy, which is this whole almost like a confessional. He's talking about Lestat, he's talking about um you know, he's basically doing the things that we know are at this point totally illegal or illicit within the vampire community, like for taboo, forbidden, because he's giving his whole story here. And there is a recklessness here on Louis' part that matches Malloy's recklessness, even though Malloy doesn't fully understand how reckless he's being. So he's doing a lot of things and taunting Louis with a variety of different things. Both, I mean, the sex thing is like that's the laughable part. But I do like the different reveals. There's so many reveals in this episode. The reveal of Louis actually being a vampire and scaring the hell out of Malloy is pretty good.
Yeah. And
Um,
that comes right before, like there's been a lot of interchange between the two of them. And then Louis reveals himself to be the vampire. The guy Malloy puts the tape in and pushes record. And then I think we get, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know the script better than me. We get a lot of verbatim from the book Interview with
yep,
the Vampire stuff here. And I think even like now it's on sort of
yep,
stuff. And a lot of that when Louis later in the interview, when Louis is describing Lestat, he's using a lot of language that is straight out of the book, the thin
Yep.
carping voice, the
Hmm.
where all these passages where he's kind of deriding Lestat, which is interesting because the book reads that way more than the show did when we were in the world of Louis and Lestat in the first season. So I thought that that was really cool that they actually brought so much of the script or the text of the book into
Yep.
this interview.
Yeah, I liked that too. And it also, I don't know, they've been kind of like teasing us with this whole the actual interview, right? And this is where they actually sort of, have that payoff happen, which is pretty good. And the other interesting thing is that, you know, not we have been thinking of Molloy as a serious journalist, which he is, even if a damaged one, and he just shows complete his complete greenness, and like he's young and messed up, and clearly like they're both like doing drugs together. This is not exactly and this is that
Well, no,
definitely.
Louis is not doing any drugs, which is also why I'm not sure why they chose to do in the performance that he seems a little unhinged.
Yeah, well, no, I mean Malloy's doing drugs and he is,
Yeah.
and Louis is encouraging that. But I think in the book maybe he's drinking. I don't recall that there's drugs, but
Well, all the like presentation of drugs and all this stuff is that happens before the tape starts rolling, although he's doing lines. I thought that this was a cool way that they put the episode together, that they have a lot of these kind of lines from Malloy that I don't think in the book he's kind of he's doesn't talk very much.
no, and also he's not like this. And
Yeah.
this interview was a real interview when, he's chain smoking, he's doing all this stuff, but this unhinged stuff, these interactions between them are not quite like this. More
Well,
it's
the
just,
tone of it you don't necessarily get from. Do you get the tone of Louis from the book? Because the
yeah.
way that it's being presented is kind of like manic almost. It's like an hysterical delivery of the lines that we know from the book, but this is a very different delivery.
Agree, and I also think that Malloy in the book is more of a vehicle for Louis, obviously, to tell a story, and in this they make Malloy more of a main character, and part of how they do that are these kind of erratic interactions between the two.
Yeah.
And the other part is that, Malloy is not actually acting like a great journalist. Like he keeps forgetting to hit record, he lets the tape run out. Like there's a lot of stuff here that just, and again, it feeds into sort of where he is today as well. But it just gets so much worse. Like, um, and I thought they did a fantastic job reimagining these scenes, and very specifically, the scenes, uh, just how Louis is almost, I don't want to say baiting this thing to happen, but it almost feels like he is.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's that's what I'm guess I'm trying to figure out why they chose to do the performance this way, where he seems almost out of control. But
well,
really
I
all
mean,
he's supposed to be doing is telling a story. But I guess it's part of that is the telling of the story is very emotional for him and he's having that kind of reaction, but he almost seems more inebriated than Malloy.
he does, and I think that I mean, to me, this is sort of the culmination, and this is what Armand says when he finally enters the scene, but this is the culmination of some pretty erratic and just risky behavior.
Yeah.
And so I just think that this all plays into a pretty great, to me, like like kind of a great culmination as they get to this point where in the books, this is a very quick thing where at the end, Malloy basically confronts Louis and Louis is like, "Oh, you think you want this," and kind of drains him almost dry and then runs away. Armand doesn't even, so they have to somehow
Yeah.
incorporate Armand into this. And
I
I
thought they
do,
did that in a smart way by like saying, "Oh, there's 9 more minutes of the tape that
right,
basically never got into the novel." Yeah.
right. So anyway, I think Armand's appearance and his confrontation of Louis, and then I do enjoy sort of the things between Molloy and Louis in the present day where they're trying to like jog his memory, like he's got his feet in the rocks and like, just trying to grab these weird little tenuous memories. And then as it plays out, it is horrific. Malloy is um almost drained, like he's definitely drained, and he's overhearing stuff and trying to sort of piece together things that were happening when he was in this incredibly vulnerable but also semi-conscious state, I would say.
Yeah, and it turns out that Louis is also in a similar state because he
Yep.
tries to walk into the sun to go be with Claudia after draining Molloy. Because now after draining Molloy, like yeah, now you're high because you just
Yep.
drank all this like cocaine blood
Yep.
and God knows what else. So now it's like understandable that he would be crazy, and I guess the most crazy thing he certainly does is runs outside during the day, and Armand saves him. But this is the part of the episode where now Armand is there. He's like the only grown up left because Malloy is almost dead. The dead neighbor is also now in the room in
Yep.
the cellophane, and Louis is burned to a crisp and just like in bed screaming a lot. And here Armand exhibits like this crazy jealousy. He says he's trying to figure out why Louis chose Malloy, like what makes you fascinating, was it? Uh, and it's just cruel. It's just like playing with your food. These are questions that he needs to be asking Louis, not Malloy. Obviously, right? And it definitely feels quite petty for a 400 or 500 year old vampire to be doing this to a human.
Well, Armand is nothing if not petty, and he's doing this with Louis as well. And ultimately, it's interesting because he's holding over all this stuff. Like, Louis is very weak, he's in pain, so is Malloy. And Armand is kind of playing with both of them in a similar way, although with Louis, it's obviously much more of a deep-seated um, resentment and pain. He even goes so far as to like reach out to Lestat telepathically, and he doesn't tell Louis the things that Lestat is saying. And we get to the crux of what Armand is really upset about, which is that this whole ploy with the giving this narration is so that somehow Lestat will find him again, and love him again. And even telepathically, Lestat is like, "Yeah, come on back, Louis," and Armand is like, "No, I'm not going to give that to him." And in the meantime, he's torturing Malloy, um, and torturing him with like a lot of interesting things. Like one of the things he's saying is like, "Yeah, he's been having sex and killing guys for a while now, like they're in the 20s," and Malloy is just kind of like in pain, and like there's like all this like crazy stuff he's doing like with levitating him, making him, forcing him in different positions, so that his muscles cramping. Like it's really ultimately torture.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, Louis actually is he's still, despite his pain and weakness, he's still dominant over Armand, and he still holds power over Armand because he gets him to stop. um and this is kind of this part is weird because they still both have gaps, but they realize that Armand has basically redacted both of their memories.
Yeah, they come to the realization because their redacted memories kind of
Or the
started
same.
exactly the same time and cover like a few days in San Francisco. And maybe into after that for Louis because he is the one who, well, I guess we don't learn that in this episode. Yeah. It's a wild ride. And Armand comes out of it looking controlling, uh and maybe not the ally that Louis feels like he's had for 70 years.
Right, but I also think that the interesting thing is all the things that are coming up in the interactions between Armand and Louis, like these resentments, these ongoing arguments, and there's like
Yeah.
these moments where they're just like both like so bored with their relationship. Like there's so many things that are just really interesting the way that they play it here. I also have to say that the filming and the editing is really excellent here. Just how claustrophobic that apartment feels, how sort of I don't want to say desperate and closed, but that's kind of how it feels.
It's
Um,
dingy
it's
for
dingy.
how they live in the present day in Dubai. It's like super dingy. But they apparently own several of these apartments. Louis is boasting at the beginning of the
Right.
interaction. So toward the end of the episode, they've kind of come to this conclusion that Molloy was held there for several days and then released, and he's got the photos from the Talamasca showing the two vampires like taking him down the stairs and out, and then I guess they dumped him in a drug den somewhere. Um, t yeah, so toward the end of the episode, Armand returns home with the drug, not the drug dealer, the arms dealer or whatever he is, the sunglasses, and he's looking very smug and pleased with himself. And you just have this scene of Louis and Molloy standing up and looking accusingly at him. And it's 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 kind of funny. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is. It is, and it's almost like, I guess the jig is up because Armand definitely has that. It has that look on his face.
Yeah.
Um, so. And then yeah, so I would say this is probably one of the best episodes just in terms of the reveals, and there's lots of layers, and then you also feel like there's still more to discover because you have to hear Armand's side of things at this point, or maybe you want to, and hopefully he can help fill in certain things. But you know, the big reveal that Louis tried to commit suicide is huge. And they even have a lot of, warnings on this episode. It makes sense given where his state of mind is. And even Malloy says, I didn't realize that I was in the room with like a time bomb. Like, and he did keep egging him on and saying things like all the things that you probably shouldn't say to somebody who is pretty unhinged and in the state of mind that Louis clearly was. Um, but Malloy was also pushing boundaries and was engaging in really risky behavior. So I don't totally believe that he didn't think he was in the room with the time bomb because he's chosen to be in the room with a vampire. You know what I mean? And doing all this stuff. And he keeps trying to push Louis and pushes him to like, um, saying how ungrateful he is for all the chances he's been given and just really mocking him and you know uh, I'm not shocked that it ended in this way with this confrontation, and so I don't think that Malloy is taking full responsibility or is holding himself accountable for that.
In the
He's
present or
still
in the past?
both but
Yeah.
definitely in the present
I
he's
think
not taking.
he's fairly hard on his former self. He talks about being like not a good journalist and drug addled,
He
which is
does,
definitely
but
true.
he does, but even in this moment, he's like kind of like, and it's all your fault, like without really being like, yeah, and I was definitely playing a part in this because he was. So, anyway, that's just one of my.
One last thing about this episode is when Armand comes in, and they don't immediately come out and accuse him of this memory tampering, but they're like, "Why did you let Malloy live in 1973?" He was asking about that. And then there's the verbatim delivery by Armand of the lines that Louis said at the beginning of the episode, meaning that this sort of explanation has been drilled into Louis's head by Armand, and
Yep,
Armand delivers exactly the same lines, and they both just stand there staring at him, with Louis
yep,
sort of also mimicking the words, and it's an interesting way to end an episode. It's kind of like they just leave it hanging there, that now all three of them know
yep,
that they all know, and so it's kind of a weird place to end that episode. But yeah, it was well done.
yep.
So I guess that's it for episode 5. Don't be afraid, just start the tape unless you got anything else, H.A. Conrad.
Nope, that is it.
Okay, well if you're still with us for this uh blow by blow of Interview with the Vampire season 2, let us know what you think. You can email us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, and uh, our episodes are available online at reanimated.podbean.com. You can also listen to us on Spotify, and other podcatchers around the internet. And my name is Stuart, and thank you for listening.
And I'm H.A. Conrad, and I thank you as well. Ciao.
Adios.